Mehdi Hasan has faced down a shocking display of overt racism during a CNN roundtable. He was debating conservative commentator Ryan Gudersky on Trump's now infamous Madison Square Garden rally when this happened.
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
You're called an
anti-Semite
more than anyone else at this table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and no, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. Okay. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die?
You should not.
No,
did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Did your guest just say I should be killed on live TV?
I said I hope
Guys,
you.
let me just stop.
You said you hope my beeper doesn't go off.
Because you said I'm a big supporter
of the Palestinians.
Of Hamas.
Guys, let me
stop.
Palestinians. Are you?
Am I what? No, of course I'm not.
I
apologize.
Are you a racist, violent person inciting violence against
Ryan,
me?
That's disgusting. That is completely.
I apologize.
Good job, CNN. Let's have first block say the Muslim guy should be blown up.
I apologize
on TV.
Don't say then I apologize. You literally.
I thought he said Hamas.
You didn't think I said Hamas. I said I supported Palestinian rights.
Yes, I did.
Why? Because when you hear
what's funny is Rudy Giuliani said this yesterday, so you're a great guest to be here to defend Rudy Giuliani.
I wasn't going to entertain nonsense today, and so at this point,
this is what we're in now. This is America in 2024.
Here's what I will say.
Forget the racism.
That's right.
It's I should die.
I didn't say that. You should die.
What does beeper mean? Don't give me your
I did not say you should die.
Why did you say with my beeper?
What did you mean?
What did you mean by the beeper? What did you mean by the beeper? No, you didn't. You said, I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
Ryan, stop talking.
At least have the guts to support your racist comment.
Hang on.
This is a fascist, right? I know that's an overused word in political discourse right now. Somebody says something you disagree with, I hope you get blown up. That's not on Twitter. That's not the trolls on social media. That's a guy who's been asked to appear on a TV show on CNN, one of the biggest networks in the United States. And this is what really got me, he says that outrageous, disgusting thing. He hasn't even got the backbone to stand by his own words. Oh, then I apologize. I didn't understand. You want to say something outrageous, and then you realize it's not Twitter or Reddit. And you think, oh my goodness, there are consequences for my words. I apologize. Did you mean it or not mean it? Now, for context, the Trump rally they're debating featured a comedian who called Palestinians rock throwers and joked about Jews not spending money. And let's look at another contribution to the CNN debate from Ashley Allison.
This is why yesterday's rally was disgusting.
Don't call us Nazis, but I'm going to threaten the brown guy as a terrorist and kill him.
Because I didn't ever say Donald Trump was Hitler. Man. But do you know who stood on a stage yesterday and said, I want to come to the Nazi rally? I don't have to make up words and call you something. You're saying it for yourself. And what you just said
Kamala
right
Harris
here, apologize, but I will tell you, I don't accept that apology, and you didn't even say it to me.
I didn't say
that was disgusting. But I can be offended when you don't even say it to me. I'm not Puerto Rican, but I was offended by what he said yesterday. And I'm offended that the former president and potentially future president would allow it and go for 12 hours and not say, I don't care. Because you know what? When Kamala Harris put out statements about switching up opinions, it wasn't good enough for Republicans.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you said it.
This is just bizarre, right? I mean, we like to criticize British politics, but this is just crazy. Of course, they're talking about, like I say, that rally where you had a comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe, saying some outrageous things. People say, well, that's stand-up, that's comedy. Sorry, he's like that all the time. That's his thing. I agree, I've watched him. I've even laughed at some things he said. The point is, this isn't a stand-up club. That's a political rally. It's a different thing. You're saying those things, campaigning for a candidate who will be the president of the United States, who will have incredible arbitrary power over more than 300 million people, who can declare war, who can start a nuclear war. A person invested with the power to start a global Armageddon, which would be an existential threat to the human race, right? So, okay, say that shit in your stand-up club. Fine, knock yourselves out. The people that want to be there, they'll be there. This is a political rally. Different standards apply. Following that exchange, Ryan Gudersky was booted off the show, and CNN's Abby Phillip issued an apology.
I want to just address what happened in the last segment. And first, I want to apologize to Mehdi Hasan for what was said at this table. It was completely unacceptable. When we get this discussion started, you'll see that Ryan is not at the table. There is a line that was crossed there, and it's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to us at this network. We want discussion. We want people who disagree with each other to talk to each other. But when you cross the line of a complete lack of civility, that is not going to happen here on this show. It's a heated time. We're in the middle of a political season. We are 8 days from a presidential election. But we can have conversations about what is happening in this country without resorting to the lowest of the lowest kind of discourse. Want to address that, and I want to apologize to the viewers at home because we want to be able to hear each other. We want to be able to talk to each other.
CNN seemed to be taking a tough line on Gudersky's comment. Ryan Gudersky has now been banned from appearing on the network. Not surprised. He told another guest that he hopes they don't get blown up. In a statement, CNN said, quote, "There is zero room for racism or bigotry at CNN or on our air." Mike, what do you think about that whole thing? I mean, I messaged Mehdi actually earlier on today. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. And I said, I genuinely think this might be the most insane thing I've ever seen on American TV coming from a pundit, right? You hear crazy things from Trump or members of the public or whatever, but for a pundit to say to another pundit, I hope you don't get blown up, as if he deserves that, for advancing a pretty mainstream position, it feels like something new. And politicians have always said outrageous things, members of the public have always said outrageous things, but this feels new, different, quite concerning. What's your view?
It was a vile comment, and I think Ryan has now. So I think he initially says on air, "Oh, I thought you said Hamas, right?" So in a moment he kind of panics and thinks, "How do I get myself out of the situation?" I've said something, because I think he realizes he said something really stupid, right? Beyond stupid. It's an insulting and disgusting comment. Then he kind of lies and kind of worms the way out of it. On Twitter, I think after the event, he said it was only a joke. Now, this is a typical thing that happens. What happens is people hide racism under the guise of it's just a banter, it's satire. This was not a satire. This was a malicious comment, essentially asking for this person on the panel to be blown up. It's genuinely disgusting, and I think he's now probably going to use this "I've been cancelled" by CNN for cracking a joke thing and run with it, right? And this is exactly what kind of maybe some conservative commentators do. I've been cancelled. But I think he's been cancelled not because he's a conservative commentator, but because, as CNN highlighted in that kind of statements after the event, this was not a civil this was a conversation which was meant to be civil, on a heated topic. I get it, where this person has gone quite clearly above the line of civility, right? This person has not been civil and said something quite vile. And I think ultimately what people need to realize is, if you say stupid things, if you say things like the person next to you should be blown up, if you allude to these kind of things, you are going to, and you have no right to, a platform. Let's be absolutely clear here. And I think a lot of this speaks to the normalization of Islamophobia, the idea that people who are pro-Palestinian are somehow kind of extremists. We've seen the same here, by the way. I spoke earlier about how in the UK, pro-Palestine protesters are presented by some on the right as a threat to Britain, as a threat to the social fabric in Britain, as a threat to the stability of Britain. And that's the framing we have here as well by this pundit. This idea that Mehdi Hasan, because he's pro-Palestinian, because he's spoken quite passionately about the Palestinian cause, he all of a sudden deserves to be blown up. Right, so this idea that people who hold that position are extremists is so mainstream, and we need to really push back against it. So it wasn't a joke; it was a vile comment, and even if it was a joke, I think this idea of hiding racism under satire is a deliberate ploy that some people use, and it's like, if you speak out against it, it's like, or if people kind of have a problem with it, it's, oh, you have thin skin, we can't joke, we can't say anything these days without being cancelled. It'll be that kind of rhetoric that's being used by these people. So no, it wasn't a joke, it was a stupid comment. And I think CNN have acted actually much more strongly than I would have thought they would have acted. It was a really strong approach. No longer on the show, we move on. And we're not going to give him a platform anymore. That's exactly how they should have handled it. And I think it's actually a really principled stance they've taken, and one I completely agree with.
Yeah, it's hard actually to imagine the BBC. I don't think the BBC would do that. I mean, in real time, to actually say this is not acceptable. I think it would have been like a huge thing, and then you would have just sort of carried on and don't mention anything. For his part, Gudersky seems to be doubling down, although he was saying mixed things in the actual studio. He said this on Twitter. You can stay on CNN if you falsely call every Republican a Nazi and have taken money from Gatta-funded media. I don't see why that's a problem in the US, but anyway. Apparently, you can't go on CNN if you make a joke. I'm glad America gets to see what CNN stands for. He might have a hard time beating the Nazi allegations, though, because it turns out he was formerly employed by the poster boy for American neo-Nazism, Richard Spencer. Spencer has confirmed that Gudersky was writing for him over a decade ago. So what was Ryan Gudersky doing on that CNN panel in the first place? Well, former TV booker Matthew Sheffield has offered something of an explanation. Here are some excerpts from a thread he posted on X. Before going independent, I used to be a producer at The Hill on its Rising program. Like all mainstream media shows, we were constantly trying to have balanced panel discussions. But we also had a problem. It was very difficult to find Republicans who weren't crazy. Frequently, my colleagues would book right-wing commentators, and as someone who'd come out of conservative media, I often had to review them before they were put on air. More than a few times, people who were alt-right activists were booked before I removed them. Other times, we couldn't find anyone who was actually qualified to talk about the news of the day in a non-frothing manner. We had people offered who made racist remarks, people who had stalked women, etc. The Republican media, meanwhile, make zero attempts at balance. The biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action in media are Republican commentators. The MSM are desperate to find any who can engage in civil dialogue without filibustering or collapsing into bigoted rants. This is why you often see the same Republicans everywhere. I also just want to go back to my point with this person. I was going to call him a gentleman. He's obviously not. Gudersky. He says one thing, outrageous thing on CNN in real time. He sees the response. Oh my God, no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm sorry. By the way, his Twitter bio says Catholic. In Catholicism, when you ask forgiveness, it's a serious thing. You don't just say it willy-nilly. I'm sorry. Oh, you don't mean that thing? Okay, fine. And then he goes on X and says something completely different. Is this an adult? I don't want to gender this whole debacle, but man up. If you believe something, stick by your words, man. And if you don't, then okay, go with the wind. But you shouldn't expect political integrity to be following you close behind. The thing is, of course, he'll put that on X and he'll get loads of clout, and the Republicans will say he's a wonderful, strong man of integrity. He was like a little schoolboy. He's all over the place. When he can tap on his little screen, he starts reverting to type. It's pathetic. It is pathetic. These people are pathetic. I'm sorry. I'm very happy to engage with people who disagree with me. I'm sure many of you guys watching and listening know that. I cannot stand somebody who says something outrageous, but then won't stand by their own words. And then as soon as he is on his little phone, tappy-tappy in the taxi, says the same thing all over again. Ridiculous.